Hello, Free Enterprise fans. Hope you guys are ready on this Saturday afternoon or just before noon for another Lali-Ho League Free Enterprise match. Myself and my dogs would like to welcome you to this particular match between penguin8r and EizanTayama. This is going to be an absolute banger. We have two exceptional racers. I am Flurry14. I am joined on commentary with Ultimate Dog Walker 12345, aka Pazuzu's best friend, aka PK4787. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. I'm happy that we finally have an answer to the question of who let the dogs out. And I am very excited to see both of these two runners. These are two of the longer standing members of the community. Pengu, if everyone recalls, won the Zima Zone 2, and Eizan has been around for just as long. He made a decent run in the Zima Zone 2 as well, right?
I want to say he was a finalist in ZZ2 or ZZ1. I believe ZZ2.
Okay, so I mean, I'm sure these two know each other fairly well. This is another one of those opening round matchups between people that, if I were making some guesses, I would expect to see make some deep runs in this tournament potentially. And it looks like we have some two different. We have a boss hunt, we have a character hunt for 4 and 5. When you see something like Dark Knight, where are you hoping to find a Dark Knight and or the Rydia as a commentator at least?
Anywhere not at the package. If you ask me right now, I just say not at the package. No reason for that at all. But yes, like anybody who's kind of new to this, there are 5 lovely multicolored orbs you see above the time. Those represent the objectives that the characters have to complete in order to obtain the item necessary to finish the game, aka the crystal. You must complete 4 of them. The first 3 are always the same: complete Kane Magnus, forge the Excal, and trade away the Pinktail. The last 2 are either a boss or a character hunt. In this case, like PK said, it's one or the other. It can affect your routing a little bit. I have seen a few runners this week in particular will try to route in a Kaipo check just to get that information if there's a character there.
Yeah, that is something I actually started working in, particularly if I have a team where I plan on maybe hitting up the water or the watery cave for some early looting. It helps. I think more when it's a guaranteed gated character. I'm more interested in making that check to a degree.
Yeah, that makes sense. DKC, it's kind of, if you don't see him early, you just have to be of mind to have your agility in order. And we'll get to that if we'll cross that bridge when and if we get there. We do see Yang as the second character, penguin8r, a noted Yang master. So we'll see if he gets to flex his punch mage muscles here. But this is a pretty good start. Rosa's the real superstar here.
Yeah, with that distinct 10 flag on, there are a couple things worth mentioning. Number one, there might only be one Rydia. There could be upwards of 3 Rydias throughout the seed. As I've seen chat point out, that giant is always a potential boss and or character location. So the longer we don't see Rydia, the more that might hang over the runners' heads. And having a Rosa early is very comforting, at least for me, because then I know, I have my white mage for the game at least. So now I'm just looking for some potential damage or a heroine robe, something I can use to get me going early here.
Well, our Rydia question already been answered, and it is also a boss that requires absolutely 0 offense whatsoever, simply a Star Veil. And if you want, as an extra added bonus, if you want your Rydia to come with an extra side of anchoring, you can just let this countdown go down, and she'll not survive that Mega Nuke, but now penguin8r is going to go ahead and Starveil everybody except the Yang. Okay. But yeah, more importantly, this is a pretty inconsequential fight, and this is going to be free. And one of the neat things about this particular flag set is getting to see each different racer's, interpretation of their early game looting.
Yeah, the new starter kits give you, a very decent choice of essentially saying, I think I have just about everything I need. I know, depending on my starting party, it may be one J item to get through this Hobbs or the Antlion fight is almost everything I need to get online. We did see Eizan pick up an Elven Bow, which will be very nice for that Rosa, but if Pengu can find a decent summon here, that's probably going to be all the damage that he needs for this early game.
That is a pretty I'd say that's not a terrible one. It's funny to hear you talk about the Antlion fight, assuming that you actually take the Antlion fight. But yeah, like even things like as far as how much looting, or is it going to be a one chest Antlion? Do you just take like the first two in the save room? Do you full loot and do the Carter administration chest? I don't know. Everyone has their own little quirks as far as whether or not how far they want to take the looting. Jin as a particular summon, 30 MP cost is kind of rough at this stage in the game. That Elven Bow, like you said, that's really going to do a lot of work. The aim command is going to make up for the level shortcomings quite a bit. And also, if we happen to find our good friend Tornado Bikini in a particularly early root spot, that will be a big help there.
Yeah, aim will break through Valval's shield just about anywhere. Well, this is free-ish, and it's just going to be a little time-consuming.
Yeah, this is one of those. This is one where if you're racing against PK, you're a little upset. This is probably one of the more time-consuming fights you can get at this spot. But meta-ing aside, this shouldn't be too much of a problem. This is the HP divided by 4, so we're looking at 250-ish HP per form. It's just Luge, he's like me. He rambles. He once he starts talking, you just want him to stop, and he won't.
Well, and we are noticing we have Pengu moving Rosa from the center slot to the top slot. We have seen Eizan's Rosa with a couple misses here using that aim command. Maybe you can explain what's going on there, because I didn't think aim could miss.
Yeah, so aim sets your accuracy, I believe, to 255, and the game does not like numbers that are greater than that, and Final Fantasy IV's approach is to roll it back over to 0. So having a middle slot character, because that middle slot actually gains like a 10% accuracy bonus, it rolls over that aim, and that's why you see so little damage and or miss 25%. Thank you, Ed. So yeah, that's you don't use aim in the middle slot. That's you see the result right here, and because of this, like Pengu, between that and getting the Jin summon, may actually finish before Eizan does.
Yeah, the Jin command is, as you said, the MP cost is going to be a little, I wouldn't say prohibitive, but you're going to have to pay attention to your MP. However, right here you can burn through this, because then assuming you go for Bull right afterwards, you're going to get a full heal before and after those fights.
You can burn through it literally.
Yeah, you can roll straight through it, just casting waves of fire all around.
Antlion Cave can take it. Yeah, so let's see what the item is. It is an Avenger. That is a incredibly good weapon for none of the characters in our party. Would like to see a Kane or a Cecil at some point. However, That Avenger for the immediate future not going to help, and it looks like the next immediate question is going to be: do we skip Fabul or head to Ordeals or Baron Inn? Those would be the three choices. Do you have any leanings one way or another?
Just because of those summon costs, I'm not against going to Fabul, because then I can just get straight through the that first fight. I can spam that summon, and then I get a full heal afterwards. Pengu's party is also poisoned right now. I do know Pengu was the only one to have defeated me in the 6-round top 32 of ZZ3, and then someone eliminated me after that. But I know Pengu skipped Fabul on me in that one, and it was part of the difference, at least.
Don't know who that would be.
Some unknown runner I've never met before.
But okay. So this is a little bit of an issue if you are hoping to leverage that Jin summon. Ogo is one of the characters that has a counter script to summons, and that counter script is the same as all the magic, and that is the Blaze spell, which, yeah, 20% of your max HP in addition to his big waves can be problematic even with the relatively low offensive power here. So you might still see it. But yeah, Ogo and I, we needed to have a talk after last night. Sure would have been nice to see him here. But as far as like the long term goes for these runners, I think finding Ogo in any early spot and not in on the Moon or in the Fey March is overall a net positive.
Yeah, I think we might see some potential damage counting from Pengu. I assume he knows that the counter spell will go off, but at the same time, if you kill Ogopogo with that summon cast, then Ogopogo has no opportunity to recast that place.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to if you're going to like try to time an AOE on CPU. I know that's a completely foreign strategy to you, but that is a thing that we're seeing here, but a little short. But I think Penguin's okay here. Eisen does pick up the Rydia, so is going to check the summon as well. So we'll get the Jin is probably about a minute or so behind Penguin on content.
And resetting out of that Jin summon, interesting. Maybe just wants to rely on Rosa with the bow. As we see it, depending on the boss, it's hitting for a couple hundred damage. It does take a little while to cast. But as far as early damage goes, we are seeing Penguin rely on that. So this is a little bit of divergence here.
Yeah, sylphs are available in the overworld shops on this particular shop setting as standard, so there is that. And, well, if you didn't get an elven bow before, the option is here in the Fabul shop. Always nice to see that there. And yeah, I missed, what did we get from Fabul?
Oh, that is a magma key, so we have our path underground.
Alright, so this definitely opens up a few more options. We can turn in that magma key at Agar and get our immediate underground access. There's a couple reasons you might want to do that immediately. The first would be there are 2 free character checks, free key item checks. That would be the Fey March and Sheila 1. The second is Sirens could be available underground. If you need to give your party a little bit of a boost, and Lord knows Yang needs a little bit of a boost, Sirens can help you get over that curve to get to like the next damage plateau. Alternatively, if you want to just still always be checking key item spots, you could just do Baron and Ordeals right now, but looks like Pengu is making the underground play.
Yeah, I think with this S standard setting, just the allure of potentially sirens in a coffin, sirens in an hourglass, something that can help you crack an egg before maybe heading back and completing the more natural checks. This is also T-Wildish, so something like the walk down to the land of summoned monsters. If I get this early enough and I haven't done any looting, it's going to be a higher tier of overall item in the chest, so that's also something I strongly consider as far as just getting my looting done. Maybe hoping for a heroine robe, a decent sword, something like that, but then also just the amount of money that you're going to plan on spending. You just need a decent amount of loot as well, just to be able to, swap it out for the items that you're looking for.
Yeah, a potential heroine robe is probably only game-changing equipment at this point in time. That also kind of factors into it a little bit as well, right? Like, if we had a Kain or a Cecil, a character that could strongly benefit from a piece of high-tier equipment, maybe you're a little more concerned that your opponent could be checking key items while you're doing Sirens. But with this particular party, that's what your opponent has as well. It's like, well, my best look right now would be an Elven Bow, unless someone pulled a random Heroine Robe. I think this is a pretty safe play. We are going to get a Job Dwarf check from penguin8r. So let's see what our Job Dwarf is. He is a fence installer. Very popular around my parts.
Well, the dwarfs appear to primarily have walls. Also, it doesn't appear like anyone actually has their own homes in the underground. But maybe there's work on the overworld. Maybe it's commuter.
I mean, I kind of feel like the whole lava thing might be an issue in regards to fences, but I'm no architect, much less an underground architect. So we'll see. penguin8r is doing something that has been a little more of a trend here on this particular flag set, and that is apply the save scum, not just to Evelyn Cave, but to the Feymarch, and has already been rewarded. Knows there's a heroine robe there, so is going to get some pretty decent loot here as a reward already.
Yeah, so this is actually both of the things that I'm hoping for when I take this save and start hitting these chests. Is I'll either loot until I find something that I am looking for, or if I find the monster chests in the first 3-4ish chests, then reset, loot everything else. Found a heroine robe and found the monsters chest, so it gets to free loot the rest of this along with that heroine robe, which is, I don't want to say game breaking, but I feel a lot more comfortable getting through almost everything I have available now, besides maybe just the Feymarch bosses.
Oh, and the hits just keep on coming. We have a Stardust Rod, the Googs, Windspear can kind of go away. Ninja Shirt, like, oh my goodness, this has been a very bountiful Feymarch already. That heroine robe, incredible defense. It does reduce her magic effectiveness, but increases her strength and agility. So Rosa in the early game is going to be a significantly better damage dealer. Also finds a Twin Harp, which is an objective that is objective potential 1. So yeah, early Feymarch, that was a good call.
Yeah, the loot there, as far as I know, is about as high as you can get for the fact that there's just one trap chest that you have to dodge. So again, with early Magna Key, if I've already gone something like a hook route, then I'm not as inclined to want to make those checks. Fortunately, also Eizan made the same play, so Eizen's still running 40-45 seconds behind would be my guess, but also picked up that heroine robe. Things like finding that early heroine robe, you kind of hope to see both runners get it, because otherwise you are looking at a potential huge advantage.
Oh, and we got a Cat Claw finds the Wyvern in the Asura spot. If we had a proper anchor situation, this is actually doable right now. But I don't think we found a cursed room. So
second Cat Claw.
Oh man, where can I get? The only bad part about this particular Feymarch, I'd say, is that yes, you generally would rather have sirens in your steed, but you also generally don't want anything that you might potentially want to go back and get to be in the Feymarch, because it's a walk. So that might make our runners want to buy a little more sirens than you might initially want. Usually, you can buy 3, 4, 5 if it's somewhere in Tomra. You have to go back, okay, and no big deal. Feymarch, though, I ain't making this walk again, so probably buy. I wouldn't be surprised to see a full 10 stack here. if not like a full supermarket sweep, empty out the wallet.
Well, looking for money does have 4 whistles. That's the whistles are the most phenomenal loot item that just specifically gives money. I do also see it looks like Eisen looted an hourglass, which I'm not sure I see in Pengu's inventory. Pengu did get the cat claws, but that hourglass means you can crack an egg without having to worry about the opening up of the dragon egg and having to actually have it be a real encounter. So if Pengu doesn't find coffins or hourglasses here in Dwarf Castle, that might give you a slight edge as far as being able to get through just one quick siren.
Well, alternatively, if you're looking for a good source of experience, Dwarf Castle does give quite a bit and finds a free boss just by face checking the boss here. This is going to be no problem. Pretty much, I don't think even these guys are going to do a whole lot of physical damage here. And you only need to do, I would imagine these probably have about 800 HP per, maybe even a little less. So, might get to see some cheeky Medusa arrow strats.
Yep.
I like it.
I was about to say this would be the perfect time to have coffins, but if we get this proc here with this aim command, the only downside relative to using a coffin is you can't actually life glitch something that's been stoned, which I found out by resetting multiple times and getting super confused about why that didn't work. But otherwise, this is going to be, what, 20 some thousand XP? This is a good little boost.
So is there any way to get that proc to be guaranteed?
I believe you have to wait until the officer goes through that dialogue script, but if you have an aim Rosa and you wait until he uses that text command to fight, that is, I believe, your best chance. I don't know if that's guaranteed or not. Maybe you can tell me.
I believe Inven will correct me in chat if I'm wrong, but if you execute that while the enemy's ATB is empty, then it is pretty much guaranteed. So as a result, since he did that command as soon as he said attack, we got the Medusa proc, which that combined really with the Stardust Rod, which, by the way, here's another boss that Stardust Rod will be incredibly useful, and also finds a Palom. What is all this magery?
Well, the mage party is just getting further and further online. There was a dragon whip, as we saw in Tamra, and I believe that combined with that heroine robe, combined with that hourglass, I saw Eisen equip that, so we might see a very aggressive egg dragon whip slapping coming up here relatively soon for Eisen before we see any further checks.
Yeah.
And I'll be curious to see what Eisen's route plan is after, essentially, we've seen most of the checks that you would do underground. Now we see Eisen going Sheila 1, whereas Pengu went over to Dwarf Castle. These are, this is one of those early underground. You have a lot of options, and none of them are technically, the right option or the wrong option until you've already made them and you know what's actually at the endpoints.
Yeah, penguin8r might also just be, especially having picked up that Palom. If Palom's big damage damage tier is as soon as he hits level 23 and gets quake. So if he didn't get it on that fight, and I don't believe he did, then he's doubly incentive to go have an omelet. And then you might also be asking, if you're watching, you see, hey, Cave Magnus is an objective. They have a twin harp. Why aren't they doing Cave Magnus right now? Well, the magic defense in that particular spot is really, 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 really high. So we've got about 6,000 HP to chew through, which isn't terrible. When you only have to rely on physical attack, you generally like to have at least a solid source of physical damage, usually in the form of Berserk. Do find hourglasses in that shop, so that's super, and that could also be what Eisen is thinking right here. get to see that Dragon Whip in action. That's some pretty solid damage that you would not expect to see from Iridia at that level or any level.
No, not at all. But that weakness combined with that plus 15 strength from the heroin robe does absolute wonders. And yeah, if anyone who's maybe relatively newer, the Dwarf Castle play is arguably among all the boss spots that you might have available in the early game is the best amount of experience that you're going to get relative to the amount of damage that you have to do. So I believe just that is a primary reason we saw Pengu make that play. That does, you're going to have Berserk on your Rydia. Your Yang is now going to potentially start doing non-negligible damage.
Yeah.
And so now your party is online. It's a great place, depending primarily on that first fight, to just get that XP, that boost that gets you from sort of early game to the mid game levels that you need.
Yeah, had that been a more difficult boss, you would have seen Penguin reset out of that. But Eisen does get the Rat Tail. That is a item you generally want to check as soon as you possibly can. My present company notwithstanding, who likes to take hook routes first. However, we don't have the hook, so can't really check that out just yet. And always following your freebies has been kind of a mantra around here. I think in this particular flag set where you're required at least 3 key items and sometimes 4 or 5, if not more, to get it done, then putting off your freebie is a little more, excusable, just because that even one extra immediate objective item isn't always going to get you. That's a lot of illusions if that's what you're gonna buy. I just
Planning on using their illusion, that's for sure.
Oh man, the year 2017 or 2070, Use Your Illusion 38 comes out. I'm here for that.
Well, that was a legend sword from Baron Inn. We were discussing in the chat room before we started that the magma key makes me, particularly if I get it from somewhere like Fabul, the magma key always makes me forget Baron Inn ordeals, or at least I prioritize them far less.
Well, I think ordeals, as far as like you have between Mist Cave and Waterfall, and then ordeals, you have 5 bosses right there. That's a pretty large chunk of bosses to get done in, I won't say relatively short order, because ordeals, is a cutscene, it's 3 bosses, but as soon as you get like a decent damage plateau, and Penguin for sure is there with Palom and Virus. Eisen, they're more by virtue of levels, and Heron Robe is pretty good. It takes significantly less, because usually you'll see people doing this at like level 15. That's where that second fight can give you something kind of nasty. Like had this Mom Bomb been in spot 2, that would be potentially disastrous. But Penguin is going to go ahead and knock the objective out now. Feels comfortable enough with his physical attack here. Getting Sid at the Baron Inn may have something to do with that, and we are going to get a music check shortly.
Yeah, this goes along with sort of the check your freebies thing, but as you mentioned, and I constantly forget about the boss hunt in these flags, but with that early underground ordeals is something, that you're not concerned about getting through these fights. It's more a matter of how long can I put this off to the point where can I one shot every one of these bosses? Can I get through these fights, through this whole mountain in 3.5 minutes instead of 6 or 7? Mom Bomb might slow that down just a little bit, but until you're really dealing big damage, this is going to take just about the same amount of time for anybody.
Yeah, and even like, did my opponent do it? We talk about how the difference in meta between racing in a big race and racing in a one-on-one, where your opponent's habits, if you know them, or even if you try to logically deduce them, can really have an out and have an effect on what it is you yourself decide to do. If you've watched a lot of these races, you've probably seen a lot more top down on the moon if we get there than you're used to seeing. Uh, but as far as if you're hoping to just get through these quickly, these are not the two bosses you want to see as far as fast fights.
Not at all. But while we have a slow fight there, I did see Calm Lamity in chat briefly. He is our primary harp song developer. We just had the beta launch, so we have a bunch of new songs in the pool. There's Calm. So we'll be quiet and listen to some tunes from Spoony B.
Well, I'll be the first one to unleash my inner rivers and talk over the harp music. But yeah, it's so a couple things to unpack here. We talked about how doing the ordeals much later after you've hit like a certain power plateau or even a loot plateau can have a huge effect on how much time it does in terms of minutes. And an example of that was Asura in that second spot. If you don't have the means to do damage to her quickly, can take an incredibly long time. But that Elven Bow from Eizan did a ton of work. Although King Queen Evelyn is definitely not the boss you want to see for the third one. Penguin finds, first of all, Milan Z as the boss. You love to see him pretty much anywhere. He is vulnerable to everything and the kitchen sink pretty much. Spears, arrows, holy curing, or holy gear. Yeah, a lot. But more importantly, gets the hook, which means that harp is hard required.
Yep, Ninja Debugger in chat, pointing that out. Sometimes you could say that music isn't necessarily required because we only have to complete 4 out of 5 objectives, but if it's gating anything that has to do with either or any of the other objectives for a particular seed, then it is 100% hard required, as it is in this instance. I didn't see what the item was up on the top of ordeals, but it doesn't look like it was any sort of key item.
It was a rune axe, which would, if you didn't have that, right, and then you did that Asura fight, and that took you 6 minutes, and it gives you the rune axe. That's the game's way of saying you probably would have liked to have this 45 seconds ago.
So we're definitely seeing some circling around. I will be curious to see when Pengu does make that Sheila 1 check. It is something that when you have a lot of overworld checks and underground checks still to make, you might put that off in the hopes that you locate a pan somewhere. But depending on how quickly we see Eizan head over and complete that music, if that rat tail happens to be something of value, we might see a slight advantage swing in Eizan's favor.
Yeah, you'll put off music in the early game while you accrue, melee power in order to get that spot done. But it's an objective. Eizan is not going to put that off for terribly long, so he's going to get that hook in short order in one way or the other. As far as Penguin goes, after this, his options other than Sheila 1 are basically, if I'm right here, Keyless Tower and the Feymarch bosses, and that's pretty much it. So I think at that point, I probably would expect to see Sheila 1 being done first, but Keyless Tower has been a thing. Someone once told me it always holds the darkness crystal.
I mean, that's true 100% of the time that it does have the darkness crystal. I can attest to that. We'll be curious to see some of the routing. I don't think that Feymarch was incredibly appealing to the point where it's like, okay, let me get a couple levels and then maybe I'll take that dive down there. I will be curious to see if either runner does check that hook character, because we are, at least Pengu from Dwarf, I believe, has an X-Cal. So there's certainly a part of me that's thinking I would love to transition to a melee team as quickly as possible if I can find a Cecil.
Yeah, and also just the what if it's Fu, right?
Yep.
What if it's Fu and my opponent got Fusoya at 35 minutes and I got him not at all? How far behind does that put me? Especially if I'm rocking a mage team and I don't have that. That the shop usually also has quite a bit of value, but I believe we've already seen sirens and hourglasses. So, Baccae would be nice to find there, but I feel like most of the stuff we've already we got the big hits already. So the gated shop checks, while would still be nice, not as crucially important. Eisen is going to go ahead and start his Magnus run, and Penguin8r is going to see the very the disappointing third boss that you would much rather see at like Cave Bahamut.
Yeah, that checks off 2 of our essentially free boss fights. Not the bosses we're looking for. Vanilla in this one location would have been, nice for the runners. But I mean, I'm hoping we see the DKC, but I'm hoping we see the DKC at somewhere like Bahamut with a relatively low level. So we have to we make our runners sweat their way through that fight.
Yeah, to answer a question in chat as far as the character settings go, it is distinct 10, which means all but 2 characters are in the seed and they are somewhere. So they have to. There has to be at least one of those 10 characters in there. Duplicates are on, so it is possible, and you will see like at least I want to say 3 duplicates.
Should
Might
be
4.
3.
Yeah, 3. Okay. You'll see 3 duplicates, and you can have 2 of one character. We haven't seen that yet, as far as I know. But yeah, those are the character settings here. Do you remember who the Leviathan boss spot was?
I don't remember. I know we had the Sparkle that turned out to be Wyvern, was in the Asura spot. Okay. Our tracker, Zoom Waffle, saying it was the Magus Sisters.
No.
It's not the worst place for the Magus Sisters, all things considered, because the magic isn't great there. But that would just be, it would be a long fight that could just get way longer if you're relying on just maybe like Rosa as your primary damage dealer. Although we have a Runax now, might be in play, but I would think we're gonna try to put that off just because of the time it would take to get through that check.
Yeah, it's one of those seeds where you'd really like to have a curse ring, right? Like curse ring,
Yeah.
Wyvern, Sura, you're fine. You can Starville up for your team members. Rydia cast a Chocobo here or there, a little extra damage, you're good to go. Zerk with an Elven Bow and a Runax, like yeah, you're gonna be fighting the physical there quite a bit, but chances are that's at least doable. Without it, both of those kind of become a nightmare. Okay, we're going to looks like check the character at least on Penguin8r's side.
Yeah, Penguin without the rat tail is could only be launching this for the specific reason of wanting those shop checks. And yeah, as I believe Zoom said in chat as well, those are the other guards. So we've seen both guards. We've seen the King Queen fight. We're basically Dark Imps away from our boss bit being gone.
Dark Imps and then Water and Water and Water Hag. I think those would be the freebies we're missing.
True, and I just want to say the old what if it's Fu adage, it applies to as opposed to our previous tournament where Fu was on the bench. We are once again in the the mindset of what if it's Fu. So I like this play. This is Coffins in Bacchus. So we've seen essentially all of the J items that we were looking for now.
Yeah, I think unless we haven't found the Starville shop, I think shopping is pretty much done unless you really, really, really want a curse ring. Um, Although I think since both of our teams have Sid, I think you kind of just, as long as Sid doesn't get moon levels, you throw that dwarf axe on him, he's perfectly okay as an
Yep.
anchor. And let's see, it is an edge. Also,
Woo!
ha ha ha.
Well, Edge is. I mean, I probably take Edge here, but with the new Neki flag, Edge is not exactly the monster that you would typically expect Edge to be. With these levels, without any specific weapons, I don't think I've seen anything phenomenal for Edge. So Edge is just kind of a guy who comes probably with the Charm Claw equipped, and you're not nearly as excited as you used to be.
Decides to get rid of the Sid. Okay.
It is interesting.
Like I've seen quite a bit where Sid stays in the party simply for anchoring purposes. Having a cursed ring will change that. Um, but yeah, it does decide to take the edge. You're also very happy to see Golbez there because it means the chances of you actually requiring to fight that Golbez now goes down to, well, 0. I mean, even if we somehow have like a demist at the King Queen Evelyn spot, which, oh boy, that would be a thing. Let's just back out if you really just don't want to take that Golbez fight. So
Yeah, Demist or DKC in that spot would be the only reason to continue on this hook route, and of course, the shop just has everything that you would want for Mr. Edge. But you got to decide how much money you're willing to spend. This is like you get to go to the toy store. Are we going to spend 122,000 on this? 132,000, or are we just going to buy maybe a full moon or two and just call it a day?
yeah, and it's one of those things, right? Because do you really want to come back here?
Yeah.
It's a time investment, and both these runners know that the opposing runner is very, very good. You don't want to be giving away like 20-30 seconds to check a shot because you really want that ninja sword. So it does force a few decisions. Penguin is going to fill out his Demus check, and then we're going to kind of get the answer here as far as what the next option is. Do we finally bite the bullet on Sheila 1? Or does Keyless Tower hold everything we ever wanted?
Let's see. So Eisen peeked that edge, did not go through the cutscene, did decide to loot. This is another very high tier loot area. We've seen a Sylph, another Heroine Robe, an Osirus Summon. We got a Stardust Rod. But I'm curious why Eisen didn't go through the cutscene and grab that edge unless Eisen doesn't have plans of collecting there.
Might just not have a weapon and may not intend on seeing a weapon at some point in time. Like you're probably going to see a 5th character at some point somewhere. So like maybe Eisen also hasn't done Dwarf Castle yet, so could just be saying, well, I'll get the character there. It's one of those things where, like, do you want to take the character and bank on getting a weapon somewhere, or do you want to wait to see till you get the weapon first? The latter can bite you, speaking from personal experience. But sometimes you just go into a shop and buy 100,000 worth of ninja weapons.
Yeah, it looks like maybe just not taking that edge, and as I was saying before, there's a very love-hate with Edge because the weapons are expensive. Something like his ninja shirt is also an incredibly valuable thing to just sell, and It looks like that's kind of where we're landing on this, because without 122 grand or 132 grand just kind of sitting around, you're going to be long sword, and you don't get great HP growth from Edge either.
Yeah, without moon levels, it's going to be tricky to get him to a point where can withstand a full-powered Big Bang. When you're thinking long play, that's roughly usually you measure your characters equal based on how well they can survive in the Zerom's fight. Sorry, Edward. Penguin is going to give us and looks like Eisen as well are both going to give us the rat tail check, the rat that we got from Sheila 1. And let's see if this points us in another direction. It is the Darkness Crystal.
Oh.
Do you fade Keyless Tower?
So, Eisen, they're meeting again in the middle. Eisen is down that Dwarf Castle check and that Palom. This is another character check, and this is access to any number of things. Obviously, a lot of key items up on the moon, but with that Dragon Whip, Heroine Robe, Rydia on your squad as well, that's access to, if not the fastest grind, it's relatively quick, and you can really get yourself fully online if that's something you're interested in.
And you can almost kind of see that each runner's faith in their respective teams. Penguin8r is going to immediately call the big whale, and I can only imagine the only reason you'd be going up there, it ain't for the shops, because we found every gated item I think you could want. So this is going to be a character check. We have our character objective, so this is a Fusoya or Cecil, please. Even a Kane, can I use that Avenger? I'd like to avenge. Eisen is going to go ahead and even things up as far as the Dwarf Castle check. We'll be very happy to see this boss. Palom, he's still a very good character. And maybe with this party, like 2 new casters and a Rosa, do you consider the notion of going full mage and going to nuke here?
You know what? The moon character might potentially be a determining factor for me, but I'm also gonna say I got a double Cat Claw Yang with about 25 bonus strength. I don't dislike the idea of going full mage in these seeds, but it's also when you're sort of sitting in a place where maybe you're gonna end up full clearing moon. I would be trying to get a Zerker party going, but if the seed's not gonna give it to me, then the seed's not gonna give it to me.
Yeah, and our runners are going to be faced with that decision at some point. Eisen, by virtue of not taking the edge, and we see who the moon character is. It's a Porum. Probably not the character you really want to see there. Porum has her play, but that
not the mage you're looking for. The Rydia of white mages. You're basically like, well, no, I'll stick with what I've got right now. I'm curious to see sort of what Pengu's plan is here, because we're looking at Keyless Tower and we're looking at the Fey March. I wouldn't be too intimidated by any of the bosses at Keyless Tower, but it's going to be a lengthy-ish check. And if you don't get anything out of it in this position, you kind of got to assume maybe my opponent doesn't do Keyless Tower with this Darkness Crystal. So you're really taking sort of like a decent gamble by going after that right now.
Now, Pengu is checking the gated weapon shops. What do you think he's looking for?
My hope is that Pengu's trying to find a Thunderclaw, or just long swords. If we're being practical, I would think long swords. We have seen ninja swords, but long swords for a sixth of the price are something that are probably more in your wheelhouse. As when you have those full moons, the one thing about the full moons is it feels like the animation just takes way longer when you throw 2 full moons. So
their hit rate, I think, in comparison to a longsword, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I agree. Like longsword, like the ninja sword at 66k per is not the best value proposition.
Price inhibitive.
Yeah, longsword at 11k is a fantastic value proposition, as that is endgame capable. Don't let Rivers hear me say that. He might raise the price on it. We're gonna still looking for something. We did get rid of the Sid, so That makes your anchoring without a curse string a little more of a challenge here. It is a charm claw. Great googly moogly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's always a charm claw. This could get a little dicey. This is so. There are a couple positions in seeds where you have to ask yourself: is it faster to try to get through a tough boss at low levels, or is it faster to try to get 2 or 3 eggs down and then go into those same fights? So this is really one of those sort of crux points of, is it worth it to grind a little bit? Is it worth it to run straight into these fights? And Pengu's running straight into this wyvern.
Interestingly enough, for the purpose of what penguin8r is trying to accomplish, the charm claw actually helps him out because
Fair.
the one thing it does do is raise your agility, and we're trying to get to RA1 without a curse string, which means you need multiple characters to have good RA in order for that mega nuke to be stopped. Does get it done between Heron Robe, Assassin Dagger also raises. I think I saw a ninja hat somewhere. And now it's going to be, we got our 10k, it's a race to deal damage. Is going to go ahead and call a summon in order to trigger a counter mega nuke. So that Yang is going to be, why did you revive me?
Yeah, I'm curious why you're using the life potions here. I was actually going to bring up...
Darvale off.
Oh, he does get the veil off. So the cast time, I guess, chose Titan specifically for that extended cast time. I was going to say the Bacchus wine is actually a great pickup for this fight, which would actually make me feel a lot more comfortable going into this fight, because you can't cast Berserk on someone with a wall, but you can use a Bacchus wine on someone who has a wall up, and that would allow you to, at least get actions buffered while you're trying to use... this is a very clever mechanic with Rydia. Maybe you'd like to explain, why that was a safer fight than one might think.
Well, first of all, that was an
boy.
exquisite example of using your knowledge of cast time to be able to get that fourth wall up there. Wyvern does have that mechanic where if you cast a summon on him, he counters with Mega Nuke. This spot only has 24k, somewhere in that neighborhood. So the first one is going to be 10k. If you get a second one, that's also 20k. So like anything between darting and whatnot, you don't really have that much more damage to do. So Wyvern at the Asura spot with Iridia there, it's pretty doable. We see a pink tail there. Since we have the hook, that is another objective down for Pengu, and potentially very bad news for Eizan, especially if this second Feymarch boss or just another key item happens to be on the blue planet that goes toward an objective.
Yeah, I believe the race I lost to penguin8r had a water hag at the Asura spot, and that actually was also gating go mode, and I faded it, and Pengu did it, and that cost me that race. So this is shades of things I've seen before. Now getting that Mage Masher gear online and going to just double down on this this whole Feymarch just having value thing, which I'm not very accustomed to this.
There is something of a Fade Feymarch meme out there. These fights can be ridiculous if they're the wrong bosses there. The experience it gives isn't terribly good, and usually you don't have the levels you would necessarily have if you were like prepared for the moon. You prepare for the moon dive, you don't necessarily prepare for a Feymarch dive, so you're typically a little more under leveled here. This is going to be can that Elven Bow carry me through the Maga Sisters, or maybe with a smattering of darted drain spears, and we're gonna find out. This is not a free fight by any means.
No, we're sort of hoping that Rosa chooses the right targets. Scala, to answer a question in chat, I rerun all of my lost races in my head every single night. I'm haunted by every loss, every shortcoming I've ever had. Just I replay in my dreams every night. I would be okay if I lost to the Magus sisters here. This is you're really sort of hoping for, you know, the spells to be cast against the people you don't want doing damage, the punches to hit the right people, and for Rosa to just angle this correctly. And Rosa has potentially done this surprisingly well.
Yeah, well, I think the rune rings that we start with help mitigate that the physical damage quite a bit, which is one of the big, you know, bugaboos of this spot. So it's more along the lines of, does she get that first one down, and then does she knock out the middle sister before she remedies the other one?
Yeah, that was exquisite execution by that Rosa with the bow.
Yeah, Elven Bow against
Elven Bow.
mages, it absolutely puts in some work. And hey, I heard you wanted physical resistance for the Leviathan spot. Hold my glass hat.
So, I mean, if I'm Pengu, I'm totally fine getting that glass hat out of there. I got some value out of something I have to assume is putting me in at least a slight advantage, because I don't think I'm with Darkness Crystal in play. There's a very low likelihood that I'm going to do the Fey March with those two fights. So that is again, I would say a slight gamble, but finding the pink tail when you already have the hook in hand is a great feeling on these flags.
Yeah, I went to the Fey March and had a gas. I found out I got a helmet of glass and pigtail. So that's going to be really good. We're going to see if that gives us a Cecil sword that we haven't actually found a Cecil for. That Avenger has been collecting dust for quite a while already. But more importantly, we get the objective down. Dragoon Spear, hey, there's a weapon for a character we don't have. Where's that Masamune? Not here. And was that a vanilla tower key on Eizan's side?
It looks like it might have been. I was caught up checking that Dragoon Spear. But now Pengu is in that position we were discussing earlier. This is when I feel real great running up to the moon. And that is when you need one key item or one boss, and you are in officially in go mode.
Yeah, Keyless Tower certainly, or I'm sorry, a vanilla tower key there definitely makes you double down on that particular gambit, because now if your opponent is going to not take the tower because they're waiting for the tower key, now you're guaranteeing they're never going to get it. So if it's not there and it leads to nothing, now you've probably spent about 7 minutes that if your opponent decides to fade Keyless Tower, and it's certainly a reasonable play, you might be giving up several minutes here, and that can be pretty hard to make up. Pengu is going to do Cave Bahamut first. I would imagine this is a boss peak more than a problem.
We might
solved.
even see a quick grind here as well. Woober asking, do I face check everything at this point? That is a tough call. Part of me is saying, you know, maybe I can get through with the face check, but there are a lot of bosses that we can't access at this point. So, you know, Baron Castle, which never has value, could have value here. You know, there are a lot of boss spots that we haven't seen there. Just glancing at it, I would say there are 6 or 7 boss spots that we still need key items for.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, I am most certainly not authority on face checking as a tournament strategy. So I'll
finding
go ahead
the boss one is not Flair's.
but Eisen basically got exactly what he needed. Receives the adamant, can now forge, and now it's going to be a question of who goes back to the spot.
So drivers, this is actually almost incredibly even, considering I don't see Pengu leaving the moon. So if we also see Eisen up on the moon, this is going to be the first person to find Dark Knight Cecil.
Yeah, that's gonna, man. where DKC could absolutely flip this because, Eisen, you could make the case for Eisen to not check the Fey March, and Penguin8r, like especially having put the time into this gauntlet, could already say, all right, I'm going Moon after this. So both runners could very easily skip the one thing on Earth that they'd want and put it off to be like absolutely last. So then it becomes a race of, well, where's DKC? And yeah, it's super interesting to see how this turns out.
We have Murasame's for sale, and we see Eisen loading up with one. This is gonna be all right, son. If I buy you this drum set, you better absolutely crush it with it, because I just blew every bit of savings that I had just to get you these two darn swords.
I bought you a piano and you never play it.
Yeah, I spent all this money on this great piano, and now you don't even use it. Yeah, we are, and this is, I've got to say, Pengu known for the half tower. This seed is like the perfect setup to prevent Pengu from doing the Pengu special. You can't have tower if tower key is at the top of tower.
That would definitely be the most bold of plays. So the immediate question is going to be now: does Eisen do Fey March before going Moon? If the answer is no, then it's a race to DKC in the event DKC happens to be here. And then it becomes a question of, what are we fading or are we not going to fade based on what Moon key items we get. Now, Penguin8r is basically doing a de facto grind here through this alt gauntlet, but that's also a check that I could totally understand that Eisen just doesn't do.
Yeah, you have sirens, you have hourglasses, this is, you're getting XP out of this, but we are not at 10 key items. Pengu's at 7. Both runners actually are at, it looks like 7 and 8 key items respectively. So this is, you're really hoping for a big play here, but we also know that this cannot be at least a key item that gives you Gomo. This can be a key item that gates wherever Dark Knight Cecil is. But as far as, Pengu hoping that this is the adamant, this is not going to be the adamant.
And that's the most interesting part about right now is that we know Moon will have key items that don't lead to objectives unless DKC is there. So then the weighting, how you would weight the check from our end as observers is going to be how many bosses does it unlock. But the runners themselves, they're not even thinking about that. They're thinking about potentially getting that adamant or ringtail. We could see rare use of a Charm Claw actually being useful in this particular Red Giant fight. You don't see that every day. But yeah, the Murasame there, like I actually think Murasame at 93k isn't quite as bad a value proposition as those ninja swords at 66k. Maybe I'm crazy. But Eisen does lean into, okay, it's an hour in. I'm not seeing a Cecil. I'm not seeing a Kane. I can sell my Avenger. It does.
Yeah, and I'm not making any checks now for characters. You're also basically grind-ish ready. Oh, and I like this. This is spicy.
Oh, how about this? So is going to check the boss here at the King Queen Evelyn spot, also known as my favorite boss spot in this particular game. If this is DKC, that is a huge advantage for Eisen. Will be in Go mode, and more importantly, we'll also know that the Moon is going to be completely haunted. But if it's not, it's a couple. It's about a minute and a half walk. But can reset out of this. There's only one thing it can be. If it's DKC, you take it. If it's not, you reset.
No, there are 2 characters playing hide and seek right now. Don't forget.
Oh yeah, our good friend Derek D-Mist could be here. That would also be an incredibly spicy play. But like it also kind of gives you an idea of what Eisen's thought process is here, which is to value boss checks, and if it comes into a Moon versus Moon fight, that could be a big deal. because if Eisen is, prioritizing the boss check, we know, well, the boss check is the only thing they're going to find here.
Oh, and that is an unfortunate little womp. I believe Eisen was just checking. I know they had both bought exits at some point, but actually neither team possesses the exit spell, which maybe is also contributing to why penguin8r is up here doing the Assault Gauntlet.
Oh, that's a good point. I want to say I thought I saw Eisen buy like 6 or 7.
I did see. I know I saw Pengu use his last one, but I thought I saw Eisen buy 4 or 5. But he has been into the cave twice. He's been into Feymarch. Maybe it's just maybe they're just both sans exit at this point, which is one of the plays. Nobody wants to warp out of the lunar subterrane.
Oh no! That is about as inefficient as your alarm clock was yesterday for your race. Not anything you want to have happen. So, yeah, I almost think walking might be faster. So a nice thing for penguin8r, like he's going to get a significant amount of levels from this grind. The downside is going to be, like you touched on before, there are far more efficient ways of getting levels that we're probably going to see Eisen do if he decides to go moon. Is he going to check Magus Sister's spot?
This is cheeky. I think he's looking for exits before going to the moon would be my primary guess. I think you go into that Baron shop thinking, where did I see those exits? This is one of the few situations where you're like, what was that overworld shop that had that one thing that I needed? Because typically you hit overworld shops once and you never come back. And now we're playing the I know there are exits somewhere, I just don't remember exactly where.
Oh look, a second Avenger that we can't equip. So yeah, this was a little bit of a time sink for penguin8r. Again, if it becomes a race to find DKC on the moon, penguin8r has a little bit of an advantage. But either racer can turn that on its head by doing the one Earth check that they skipped. Okay, could also, that's an important factor too. Eisen does find the Starveil shop. You don't want to be caught on the moon without Starveils on the wrong boss, but could also be picking up Starveil to do this Feymarch. And if that's the case, yeah, here we go. He's going to do the Feymarch.
Let's hope so. I still think we're on an exit hunt, which is going to make for something curious. To answer Corey's in chat, the Pigtail is behind Wyvern, who is at the Asura spot in the Feymarch. penguin8r has done that. Eisen did the no key tower, which gave the vanilla tower key, which then gave the adamant. So they are both one Earth check away from go mode.
penguin8r is coming back to Earth. Is this also to get exits, or
It's gotta be. I think they were Fabul. Fabul would be my first guess.
This will be a good time to plug Dunka's tracker. Comes with shop tracking. Because I know we've seen exits in a shop already.
I do believe they were at Fabul because I know both of them picked them up on their first time through, and that's one of the few item shops I think has been checked.
Okay, Inven bringing up a good point here that is also leaning toward Wyvern.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a curse string. As you get levels and more agility on your team, it becomes harder and harder to get your party to the relative agility requirements that you would need for Wyvern, which is, one motivation for penguin8r doing it early is that fight only gets tougher. On penguin8r's side, I don't think, this could be an exit check, because he's not checking armor shops. But we'll see. Like, if penguin8r heads to the tower and Eisen heads to Wyvern, this it's going to be super close. But no.
I think Eisen originally was looking for exits because we saw some item shop checks, and then Eisen was like, you know what? I don't remember where they are, but I do know that assuming I play it right, I can get through these Feymarch fights. Maybe that's what I'm gonna do. But here we go.
Well, okay. So they're both going to get go mode from opposite opposite ends of the spectrum, but are going to finish with the same objectives here. He goes toward there, then goes back, lays a save point, and then goes back. It's like playing with my emotions here.
Oh, they are meeting again in the middle, and this is a hilarious example of basing your routing choices on what your fastest checks are potentially going to be. If either of them had potentially found those exits when they went to check those shops, they would have taken themselves right off the trail. But now they are both just headed right towards their respective go. They're meeting in the middle. This is the Benjamin Button race.
What's funny is what if like DKC is at D-Lunar's spot, like the first check that most people will go to on the moon. Now all of a sudden you're like, ooh. But fortunately, like that's not going to be an issue here. Big issue is relative agility for Eisen does get 1 star battle off, so we're good there. We probably need to see at least. Well, Penguin had 3. Eisen got 3 off too. Okay.
Sid getting a turn before Edge? Did I miss something?
That
wow
does seem kind of questionable. But yeah, with the same mechanics we saw penguin8r use, he can summon here. Although Wyvern is a dragon, so that dragon whip is also
gonna go with the Bacchus.
The Murasames may also have something to do with that. I believe it's -5.
Oh, they do decrease agility. That's right.
We'll see if his agility and melee damage is enough to make up the extra like 14k he has to do. At 3k a hit, I think he's in pretty good shape.
So Loof in chat, Penguin did get levels from that alt gauntlet, but the one thing I will say is Eisen will be at 10 key items at the start of his grind, so there is going to be some time made up just by the fact that your XP is going to be doubled, whereas all of that XP that we saw penguin8r get was halved. And assuming that we're going for some sort of hybrid reflex strat, both of them are going to have to do a grind, and it's looking like Eisen might be in go mode. What would you say, maybe 40 seconds ahead now?
Yeah, I think maybe a little more than that. Power cutscene is a cutscene. In a vacuum, yeah, Penguin does have more levels, and they'll both have 10 guns by the time they do the grind, but the amount invested for grind in particular, and if you assume like that's the primary motivation for taking the alt gauntlet in the first place, will certainly be uneven. But as it begins, like it's going to be really, really close.
Yeah, I think both parties definitely require some levels here. But with hourglasses, with sirens, with any grind you really want to take at your disposal, it'll be a curious case of who is after how many levels before going into Z, because one bonus grind fight or one fewer grind fights could really make the difference right now, because this is tightening up very aggressively.
Now I'm interested to ask you, penguin8r does not have great weapons for Edge. I think he's rocking full moon assassin dagger. And Sit, Yang does have double cat claw, so that's there. Who do you think has the advantage in the Z fight here?
If this is me and I'm going into this Z fight, I am gonna go with basically, a Zerker if I'm Eisen. I don't know about what Penguin8r wants to do. I did see Penguin8r pick up some unicorns, so he is known for pulling the unicorn strat, which might cut off a little time. But that also requires a lot of bonus grinding just to have the reflectable spells that you're looking for the Z fight relative to the levels. You know, you can go into a Z fight with the Zerker party like we're seeing from Eizan here.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Is Penguin8r motivated to consider going to nuke? I kind of feel like the answer is no, but it is certainly an option. And if you were to use the unicorn strat, that would be there.
Yeah, it's very tight as both of them are about to light up their fourth objective with crystals in hand. I mean, Pengu does now have access to that shop and sort of has to make a tough decision here.
And one nice thing we're seeing from Eizan's side is taking advantage of that Dragon Whip has quite a bit of agility with that Heroine Robe. And since the double Mura on edge means he's probably not going to pass him, Rydia in the middle slot is going first, so can effectively hold A to grind here. And we talk about the level difference. You know, we have seen races won or lost on the Siren grind, and I don't think Penguin. Okay, so he's doing the same thing.
Yep.
Still has the Dragon Whip. Now, you would want to hope that Edge and Rydia are on the same relative agility level here, so that she'd be going first, and it looks like she is. So it's not quite hold A to grind for Penguin8r because he has Palom in the middle slot, and if you get a strike first, it's always going to go in party order, so center character first. But should be still two pretty efficient grinds. But I see Palom's getting levels here, so are we going all the way to nuke here?
The anchor situation for Pengu is going to be interesting. Pengu also only has 5 Sirens, I believe. And as you brought up, the Sirens are all the way down in the Fey March.
Well, double Cat Claw means that Yang can be 28 agility, which if you're not going for RA1 strats, 28 agility is generally what you're shooting for. Yang will get that at double Cat Claw, I want to say in the low 40s. I know with nothing else, he hits 28 at level 52. So Cat Claw is giving, I believe, +3 to agility. I think is going to at least have over 28, if not like right on the money. Does get the unfortunate hatch, which is just a couple seconds, but you know we're so close here that any little thing here can make a difference.
Yeah, this is going to come down to, you know, post grind, who's more comfortable. It looks like Penguin8r has a slight level advantage at this point, but didn't pick up any swords for Edge. If you're going for nuke, then he might be right on the cusp of not having enough Sirens.
Yeah, this goes back all the way to like the very beginning, where when they were first going to the Fey March, and we talked about how when you have Sirens in the Fey March, right? You don't want the walk that you're seeing Penguin8r make, you don't want to have to make this walk again. So maybe you buy 10, 11, 12 Sirens because you don't want to be in the situation that Penguin8r is at, where like if he's going to nuke, he has to buy more. So now he has to make this walk again, whereas Eizan does not. So yeah, that's this. If the levels weren't already evened up, Eizan's position is a little better. I would say that if Penguin8r does decide to go like double nuke and white, and even with a double Mura Zerk and RA1, Penguin8r is going to have a faster Z fight.
Yep, you might also, even just with that Siren count, have considered something like going to the moon and doing gold dragons. just because of that heroin dragon whip, you're not giving up that much time relative to having to make that walk. But it looks like Eizan is done, and Eizan is ready to head to Zeromus.
Yeah, I think Eisen's ability to be able to hold a grind on eggs kind of pushes him over the edge of possibly doing gold dragons. I'd want to be able to implement nice too, to be perfectly honest, if I'm going to do that over exploiting a dragon weakness. So there are benefits to both. Like that.
Well, I don't disagree. I just think having to make that walk
No, that's
eats
a good
up like
point.
the comparable time difference that you would have, gained or lost. Plus, you would have had Palom at weak, and you would have been able to, maybe after the first or second Gold Dragon fight, get that bonus life glitch off.
Yeah, so I mean, at this point, I gotta imagine we're going all the way to Nuke here, and we're gonna go ahead and do a Reflect fight. So, generally, 4 Reflect Z fights with 2 Nuke casters, especially since we have 2 Stardust Rods, I would not expect this Z fight to be much more than 3 minutes. So Eisen will have to make up the difference. Well, I mean, not really. Penguin8r will have to make up the difference that he's losing and getting into the Z fight a little bit later. Neither one has to pass, so we're doing the walk all the way down here, and we will soon be answering a question that it looks like our chat is incredibly interested in finding out the answer to. What question would that be?
Well, as we make our walk down the moon, the entirely haunted moon, we do have, since the beta has dropped and is now officially a part of the Z Sprite pool, we have, I think, it's like 4,800 Z Sprites that Scala has all done by hand, several hours apiece. But we don't know. We know the boss. We know the script. We just don't quite know what the boss looks like. So I guess we just have to ask, whose butt is going to be the butt that we kick this afternoon, I guess.
Yeah, we'll guess we'll never know where DKC was, if the moon was in fact completely haunted or just inefficient. But yeah, so Penguin8r is done with his grind and is going to be. If you want to see how much the moonwalk is, you get a pretty good measurement right here.
I mean, I do love the moonwalk, but that's typically the the facing forwards. But it looks like you're walking forwards, but you're going backwards. But this moonwalk is gonna be very heart pounding, I think, for both runners here. Amazing to consider, that we saw Pengu do only Cape Bahamut, get no value from Cape Bahamut, and then just go right back down to do Keyless Tower. It's not the typical routing choices that you see, but
you'll have to keep that in mind to ask him after the race is done.
Indeed, and it looks like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. Never actually took the moon character, so just saving that for an anchor.
If I had to guess, it would be not having exit that you had pointed out earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are going to get that one cheeky strat you don't see a lot of people do, because oh, never mind. I'm being silly. I thought he was pre-zerking. I was like, wait, no, you should have RA1 here. Yeah, we've got our first zerk queued up, and let's see whose butt. I need your clothes, your boots, and
get clothes. Give them to me.
All right, so it's going to be pretty straightforward on Eisen's side. Zerk up, and, deal with this counter nuke on the Silk Web. But Zerk up Yang, Zerk up Edge, and deal with the consequences of either a full Big Bang or counter nukes from you nerfing it. Hitting Yang on the counter nuke is always about as good a thing as you can possibly see here. Could Zerk Sid for good measure. I don't know if it's time efficient for him to take turns. at this level.
With that, rune axe, I mean, we'll see. Even if Sid is hitting for 800, just because this is a time sort of race. The more damage you can get in between big bangs, the better you're going to be off. Did, I believe, accidentally single cast that Cure 4.
Yeah, well, he'll have time to get a second one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're even going melee Rydia with the Heron Robe and the Dragon Whip. It can be valuable, especially if you're not certain that you're going to tip into the next phase with the damage that you have. That if it is enough, hey, it's great. The downside to this particular strat is that if Rosa takes a bad big bang, that's curtains.
I mean, I would be surprised. We have a white shirt, rune ring, silent staff, wizard helmet, Rosa at 21, 26. That's, I mean, it's not guaranteed, but it's, it's as close to comfortable as you're gonna get.
Yeah, I mean, I would be surprised too, but it happens.
Yeah, of course.
Bad rolls on Rosa.
Sometime you're doing 1200 HP strats and Rosa gets hit for 1149 and she's at 1110.
Hey, I'm thankful it happened. Yeah, so Penguin8r's on the other hand is going to be, I would imagine, a straight reflect. You can work a unicorn into here, but I don't think the melee damage is enough to consider it. So yeah, this is going to be get a Silk Web, get a Starvel up. I generally like to have Hallam in slot 1 with a bluff. But if you want to have that character do a Starvel, that's perfectly fine. I mean, Penguin8r is, in my opinion, the best when it comes to making a Z fight as efficient as possible. So I will always defer to what he does.
Yeah, Pengu definitely knows this Z fight very well in and out. I think the turn ordering is just based on you want the white to be queued up first, going into the nuke. We did see, I was going to point out, we saw Penguin8r to sell that Avenger to get those bonus Sirens. So on turn 1 for Edge, you typically would like to see Edge chuck something like an Avenger, but may or may not have sold off. Oh, never mind, he has 2 Excals. That's fine.
I was gonna say that probably has something to throw. That'll be fine. But yeah, we didn't expect Sid and Rydia to last terribly long, but Edge here is going to slow this down a little bit. That's like the double Mur is pretty good. This is going to drag Eizen's time down just a little bit.
Edge getting dropped by that big bang too. That is an unfortunate roll. Oh, we do see a life 2 queued up. When you have Bacchus Wine, you do have the opportunity to let Rosa sort of really fully chemist as opposed to wasting turns on Zerg casts. But this is gonna be tight to the finish.
Yeah, Life 2 is a spell that you don't often want to use because of the cast time. But in this particular instance, it really makes sense. You already got the full heal off everyone else, and you want Yang to spend as many times lurking as you can. And there's rocks. Oh, this is gonna be close because Penguin8r is dropping.
Penguin8r is 6 or 7 spells in here. We are close in. As
that Cure 3 might have been. There is one flash.
Well, Eizan, we've had a flash from Eizan. We just had a flash from Penguin8r. Eizan has joined us in the chat for what we are, as Oscar just jumped in to say, is currently, I guess, maybe under review and being called a tie, but GG.
Yeah, this is officially being called a tie with finish times of 1:25:39 for Eisen and 1:25:41 for Penguin8r. It is a 2 200th of a second difference. by rule, that is a tie. It will be under review to be certain, but yeah, we are calling this a tie as of right now. So, I mean, can it get much closer?
And I'm not sure if Eisen is in here yet, but I will say I have participated in a tie as a racer and as a commentator. If this is the third tie in Free Enterprise that I have been directly involved with, I'm gonna be up there with Smapey.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear you now. GG, Eisen.
Thank you.
So the moon. Is it just the path to Zeromus, or is there anything else to do up there?
I was hoping for a Cecil up there, but that's about it.
So take us through sort of, because we both saw both of you do very sort of, you sort of did the opposite things in order to get your go mode. You did tower first, and then you went into the Fey March. But we saw both of you sort of looking through some item shops and then some weapon shops right before you went into your final fights. Was there something specifically you were looking for? What was like sort of your mindset right before you were setting up to go into that Wyvern fight?
I was looking for a cursed ring, but I figured with Rydia having a heron robe and hopefully Sid was slow enough on B6, so I took a chance and it kind of worked out.
Yeah, it was definitely like what it came down to between the two of you is that you had did tower and penguin8r did Fey March, and then the darkness crystal comes up and we're up here in columns like, well, do they check moon or do they go back and check the spot that the other didn't? Was moon ever in play like for you mentally, or was keyless tower and Fey March just something you wanted to prioritize for this particular race?
No, I was pretty sure when I saw darkness that penguin8r would end up going to the moon, but looking at the end of the race, I'm guessing he didn't even go there.
Well, we didn't find anybody who actually had access to the exit spell, and you both sort of ran out of exits at the same time before anyone went moon. And I was curious. That's part of why I was asking, because we saw you check some item shops. If you were sort of hoping to locate exits, and then when you didn't, if that led you to the Fey March, or if you just wanted them just to get out of the Fey March as quickly as possible.
Actually, it didn't really cross my mind about that. And I probably, if I went to the moon, I would end up having to walk back out. But I bought 2, and I was like, that's all I need for the overworld. And then I really never thought about the moon with exits.
Yeah, I think that's going, especially a penguin8r question as well, since he did take the vomit fight. As far as Euron's concerned, seeing the edge there with and passing him on the first time, but coming back after the Merc Summits, is that more of the case of wait to find a weapon before you commit to the character, or did you just not want to do nuke strats for this particular flag set?
I just didn't want to grind to the nuke, so I saw both of those. I saw that there. I was like, well, I know Edge is in Ebon Cave, so I can go pick him up. It's like, I wish I kind of did it on the first time because I wasted time going back.
Yeah, one of those things about a tie, right? There's so many little things that you can point to. Like, it's always easy to look at the last thing, but this was still like an 85-minute race. So things like, oh, I did this one extra menu, you start to look at and hyperanalyze. That's pretty much all I got. PK, you got any other questions?
I just want to say, as someone who tied during the pools phase of the top 32 last tournament, I know the feeling of like at least when that happened to me, my head was like, well, this isn't good, it's not bad, it's just not, I expect either win or lose a race, and to tie a race is just something that I'm not mentally prepared for. So I'm wondering, what your thoughts are on just sort of like I tied a Free Enterprise race. I didn't know I could do that.
Well, it's my first one, so
Yeah, of all the hundreds of races I've done, I have one tie. Everything else is very binary. But that was amazing. You guys put on a phenomenal show, and you both ran that very, very methodically. It was very fun to watch. Thank you.
No problem.
We'll see if we get Penguin8r in here. But so I guess we now have to change your name to Ultimate Tiebringer 1, 2, 3, 9, 4.
Something like that. I'll have to figure out the numbers. The numbers are very specific to the name, but it looks like we are joined by Penguin8r. GG. Do you have any initial thoughts on having successfully completed a tie in Free Enterprise?
Thanks. When I hit the dot done, I saw Eizan finish right before me. Even going to Jerome, I knew it was going to be close because I saw him preparing his dot done, basically the same time as me. And I thought I lost because I saw Eizan finish first, and then Scala came in and reminded us about the tie clause. So I guess that's kind of a positive that I thought I lost, and then now it's actually a tie.
Yeah, yours was a very good example of how a fast and efficient full reflect strat can really make up a bunch of time. You went into the Z fight, I want to say a good minute and a half behind, but you know, reflect strats are pretty good. I think the main question we probably have for you, I know PK wanted to talk to you about Cave Bahamut, so I'll let him ask the question.
Well, I think my question was, and we sort of saw both of you hit this point where, you had done Cave Bahamut, and then we saw both of you sort of check some item shops, but nobody wanted to dive the moon because there was nobody with the exit spell available. So you're one of the first people I've seen do an alt gauntlet in Cave Bahamut, not really get anything of value from it, and then decide, well, I'm going to leave the moon and I'm going to do Keyless Tower. So was this exit spell based? Was, what was sort of your thought process when you got that Avenger out of that Cave Bahamut?
So not wanting to dive the full moon was mostly because I didn't feel strong enough. I was looking in the shop for Drain Spears, so Edge would have good damage with the darts, but I couldn't find any.
Yeah, we missed that completely.
Yeah, and I was still at like 6 key items, so I didn't really want to grind yet without the bonus, and my party wasn't going to be that strong until we got to like level 50 to get our nukes. So really didn't feel comfortable going all the way down. I guess I ended up doing the summons partially just because I was going there anyway to check shops. I felt good about clearing the Wyvern and getting the Pinktail. So I thought I was basically ahead at that point from finding that. I guess I kind of overplayed my lead a bit going to Bahamut, thinking I had time to do whatever was there. And I kind of thought the experience on Bahamut would be nice, but it took a bit longer than I expected, and of course didn't pay out. So then, at that point, still didn't really feel comfortable going down in the moon, but felt like I needed to do some things, and just kind of ended up with Keyless Tower as the best of bad options.
You did the reverse Pengu with the tower. I commented on some point that vanilla tower key is the best way to keep you away from tower, but I guess you smelled out where the go mode was anyway.
You can't fool a penguin with the tower.
Yeah, you just slide right on up and right on down. Your Rosa also did a pretty phenomenal job against those Magus sisters, I have to say.
Yeah, early game was pretty rough start, Rosa and Yang, but finding the Heron Robe in the summon cave really helped.
Was there ever a point in time after seeing the Edge there? I know, like, it looked like you had considered buying a bunch of ninja weapon, but then found out how costly they tend to be. Was there ever a point where you were thinking about shifting into like more of a full Zerg party, or was it just like ninja swords are too expensive? I'm good with what I got.
I definitely would have had I picked up a Cecil or maybe a Kane, but with those characters, I didn't think it was quite enough. And yeah, I didn't want to all in on just buying ninja swords, which I don't even feel like are that strong, at least relative to mages.
Yeah, you certainly had the weapons if you had found a Cecil or a Kane, but I don't blame you. You know, 2 Zerkers when you have a couple black mages and a Rosa that you've been getting XP on all game. And obviously that Aroma's fight was fast enough that it made up, you know, everything that you needed to at least secure the tie. So, I mean, well done. The walk back into Feymarch to get the sirens had to have felt a little slow.
Yeah, and with the race being as close as it is, you know, every little thing, every backtrack, every little mechanical mistake, every little hesitation, you know, that could have been the difference between, in this case, a tie and a win proper. So yeah, every little mistake like that really hurts.
Well, you put on a heck of a show, so thank you for that. As I said to Eizan, as somebody who's also tied, it's not one of the 2 binary outcomes that you anticipate when you go into a race. So I just recall being a little nonplussed after I got done. But,
yeah, I couldn't even put up a GIF at the end because I have a win GIF and a lose GIF, no tie GIF.
The tie GIF is just and now just be PK doing something. But yeah, that's I don't have any further questions unless you do, PK.
No, just GG. As far as we can tell, you know, the tie sort of essentially is going to count from a point standpoint as a win for the both of you. So, you know, it's as far as there actually being 3 results to a race, you picked one of the 2 better results than than no points.
Yeah, definitely. If I have a choice, I choose points over no points, typically.
A solid decision, worthy of a randomizer player of your caliber. But yeah, thanks, dude. I appreciate you putting on a great show, and we'll see you next week.
All right, thanks.
All right, I believe that's going to wrap things up here. The next restreamed races we have for this particular tournament would be Aegis and Twisted Flax at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. On Randomania, we have Cubs Rule 21 and Infinius at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern. And that is about all I got. PK, it's been a time.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Flurry. If you don't already, please check out our tracker, Zoom Waffle, and our lovely restreamer, Asuka, for 24, as well as, I mean, maybe Flurry 14 if you can figure out how to spell the name correctly. But
the other 2, that this engine does not run without our restreamers and trackers. So always throw support their way. An absolute fantastic job as always.
But yeah, thanks. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. It's again the non-binary finish to what I always expect to be a binary outcome. And it looks like we are going to we have a raid target. Florida, maybe if you want to take us out.
Yeah, sure. I can say as an admin, this is officially being judged as a tie at this moment. And oh my god, there are just so many channels. I can't find the right one. Where is it? Help me out here, PK. Where's our raid target again?
We are heading over to Eagle Falcon, who is running a just a free enterprise seed. I would say a reminder, no spoilers, but we're not raiding another race, so feel free to discuss it further, and send all of the free enterprise love to Eagle Falcon.
Thanks, you guys have a good day.